Breaking news, arrested. A sitting Democrat congresswoman has just been hit with serious federal charges after she was caught on camera physically shoving an ICE agent during a wild confrontation at a New Jersey detention facility. And just when you thought that things couldn't get any more explosive, the Supreme Court drops a bombshell decision that gives Donald J. Trump the ultimate power over immigration enforcement nationwide. This is the kind of story that they do not want you to see, guys. The mainstream media, of course, dead silent. But today, we're going to go ahead and pull the curtain back. So what really happened at this ICE facility, right? And why did body cam footage send federal prosecutors into overdrive? And how does this stunning Supreme Court ruling allow President Trump to deport hundreds of thousands immediately with no interference from lower courts or radical left judges? Well, you're about to hear about these footage, the charges, the fallout, the legal earthquake that has literally just reshaped the entire immigration battlefield, from Democrat crossing the line into physical violence to President Trump reclaiming full control over our borders. Ladies and gentlemen, this isn't just some news story. This is a turning point. Now, if you support President Trump, drop a 4-7 in the comments down below, guys. Don't forget to hit the like button and subscribe. Now, stick with me because in just a minute, I'm going to show you how this one Supreme Court decision is already triggering some severe panic inside of Biden's old immigration circles, and how ICE's new strategy has illegal aliens racing to flee the country before it's too late. So again, don't forget to hit the like button. Let's go ahead and get started. And we might be actually looking at one of the biggest immigration showdowns that we've seen in years, guys. So let's get into what really happened, because this wasn't just a protest that went wrong. This was a federal crime. Congresswoman LaMonica McIver didn't just show up to voice her opinion. She did a little bit more than that. Maybe she did a lot of bit more than that. She showed up with a mob, bypassed standard procedure, and put her hands on a federal ICE agent during a confrontation that is now under national scrutiny. Now, you let me know what this Democratic, in the comments down below, guys, let me know what you guys think should happen to this Democratic congresswoman for doing this. Now, according to federal prosecutors, she was caught on camera pushing and elbowing officers, shoving her way into a restricted ICE detention center in Newark, New Jersey. The charges: felony assault on a federal officer, impeding law enforcement, and criminal trespassing. No misdemeanors, all felonies. Crazy, right? And she's also now facing potential some prison time. So this is just the beginning, because what she did next shocked even seasoned ICE veterans, guys. Let's talk about the body cam footage, okay? So the office, in fact, the one that her office doesn't want released, in this particular body cam footage, you can clearly see McIver blocking agents from arresting Newark Mayor Ras Baraka, who was also caught up in the chaos. Prosecutors, they're saying she deliberately interfered with the arrest, placing herself between the agents and the suspect. Now, get this, guys. McIver's defense: she claims it was just an oversight visit and that she felt under attack. But here's the thing, guys. ICE and DHS officials, they say she forced her way in, bypassed security, and refused to follow lawful orders. And now they've got multiple angles of video showing exactly that. So in just a minute, you're going to hear from former ICE Director Tom Homan, who did not hold back when he was asked about what should happen next. And probably even more shocking than that, where do you see how President Trump's Supreme Court victory turned this incident into like a nuclear level reset of immigration policy? So yeah, let's get into what Tom Homan said and why the Democrats might have just lit the fuse that blew up their own agenda. And real quick, I mean, whether you're a parent, a friend, you never know who's listening. You really don't, right? You never know who's listening until a message changes your life. Just like the one that I got from this comment in one of my recent previous videos. And the comment goes like this: through your broadcast, I learned about Chapter. They helped me and my husband saving or giving back $174 of our $185 Medicare. Thanks, Ron and Chapter. And this is from my Gospel Favorites one. So shout out to that particular viewer. And thank you so much for sharing that comment with me. Guys, this is what real help looks like. Chapter isn't a sales team. They are a support system. They walk you through every plan. They check for hidden savings, and they make sure that you and your loved ones don't pay a penny more than you need to. So this listener got back $174. That's almost all of it. So give our friends over at Chapter a call. You can call them up right now at 909-563-8279, or better yet, hit them up on the website. Their link to the website's in the description down below, but you can reach out to them at askchapter.org/Ron. This is the help that you've been praying for. And let me know how much money you were able to save. Now, former ICE director Tom Homan, he didn't mince words. In fact, he said it pretty clear. He said you cannot put hands on an ICE agent, period. That's pretty clear. And he's right. You can protest, you can oppose a policy, you can voice and speak and criticize. You can do all that. But the moment you physically assault a federal officer, especially during an active law enforcement operation, you've crossed the line. Tom Homan slammed the incident as yet another example of the radical left choosing politics over public safety. Now, he said if Congresswoman McIver wanted oversight, she should have scheduled a tour just like everybody else. But instead, she showed up with a mob, created a scene, and laid hands on law enforcement. Drop a quick Homan in the comments down below if you agree with Tom Homan on this one. Now, here's a twist, guys. While Democrats try to claim moral high ground, Trump's allies in law enforcement are saying that this is proof. This is proof that radical politicians are no longer interested in oversight. They're more interested in interference. So, well, this isn't just about one lawmaker. No, this is a pattern, guys. This is a growing movement on the far left to demonize, to undermine, and to physically obstruct federal immigration enforcement. ICE agents are risking their lives daily. Many of them are former veterans. They're law enforcement officers, parents. They're working these brutal hours trying to keep our dangerous criminals off the street. And yet they're being assaulted, blocked, and treated like villains by elected officials and congressmen and women? Really? So the question now becomes, where does it all stop, right? Well, if this kind of behavior is allowed to slide, then what's next, right? Will more lawmakers take justice into their own hands? Will ICE have to defend themselves, not just from gang members, but also from the people sworn to uphold the law, right? So, of course, now the Supreme Court enters the picture, right? So just days after this assault, the highest court in the land delivered a crushing decision that gave President Trump unmatched authority to restore order and end Biden's open border madness. So we need to talk about this Supreme Court ruling and why the left is now panicking about what comes next. So let's go ahead and dive into how the SCOTUS just handed Trump the ultimate immigration weapon, guys. And then it happened. Just a few days after the Democratic ICE assault scandal broke out, the Supreme Court delivered a seismic ruling, 8-1 in favor of President Trump. In a landmark decision, the court ruled that Trump does, in fact, have executive authority to revoke temporary protected status, aka TPS, for roughly 350,000 Venezuelan illegal aliens that Joe Biden had shielded. Let me repeat that, guys. This wasn't a narrow decision. This was this was almost unanimous at 8-1, a near unanimous ruling that shattered the narrative pushed by the open borders left and ultimately confirmed President Trump's right to enforce immigration law without interference. And with that ruling, Trump now has the legal green light to immediately apprehend and deport hundreds of thousands of migrants who were previously untouchable under Joe Biden's orders. But one justice did vote against it. And what she said and what she represents has conservatives across the country furious, guys. The lone dissent, Justice Ketanji Brown Jackson. Does that name sound familiar? This is the same justice who made headlines in her confirmation hearing for refusing to define what a woman is. The same justice who has now found herself in the minority on more 8-1 rulings than any other seated judge. Critics are now, they're basically calling her dissent, blatantly partisan, accusing her of putting ideology over legal precedent. And the truth is, guys, her vote would not have changed the outcome. But it does reveal exactly how far some on the left are willing to go in order to protect Biden-era immigration crisis. So even with a crystal clear constitutional question here, right? Does the executive branch have authority over TPS? I mean, she stood alone, protecting Biden's legacy rather than the law. What's up with that? But what did Biden actually do to trigger this showdown in the first place? Well, we need to go ahead and break down Biden's secret expansion of TPS just before leaving office, and how President Trump ripped it to shreds on day one. So this is really where it all starts to unravel. So let's go ahead and break down how Biden tried to flood the system and Trump stopped it hard and cold. So how did we even get here, right? Well, we need to talk about what Joe Biden did, because this didn't come out of nowhere. One of Joe Biden's first executive actions in 2021 was to grant temporary protected status to 350,000 Venezuelan nationals, effectively shielding them from deportation regardless of their legal status. But that wasn't the end of it. Just days before leaving office in January 2025, Biden attempted a last-minute expansion, offering over 600,000 Venezuelan illegal aliens TPS protections, knowing full well that Trump was about to take office. So it was a parting shot, effectively, right? It was a very calculated move to try to flood the system, to kind of jam up the immigration enforcement, and ultimately handcuff President Trump's first few months in office. But Trump didn't blink. On day one, he actually issued an executive order to revoke Biden's entire TPS expansion. And with the Supreme Court now backing him up, it is game over for Biden's migration shield. And so now the question is, what did this flood of TPS actually do to the country? Because the impact wasn't just on paper, it was in your neighborhood. Now, under Biden's administration, wide open border and TPS policies, America saw more than 20 million illegal aliens pour into the country in only 4 years. And we're not talking about hardworking families just trying to, escape danger in their countries. We're talking about violent crimes. We're talking about violent gangs, drug traffickers, fentanyl pushers, career criminals exploiting Biden's zero enforcement environment. So ICE agents reported massive increases in crime, including fentanyl floods into the U.S. neighborhoods, gang violence and burglary spikes, especially in sanctuary cities, and the new transnational criminal groups like the Trinidad Aragua gang, basically gaining all sorts of strongholds across multiple states. Now, Biden's TPS it blocked federal officers from deporting many of these people. ICE was effectively paralyzed. Criminals were shielded, and American families ended up paying the price. But now, ladies and gentlemen, that shield is gone. The Supreme Court has spoken, and President Trump, he's got the power to clean house. So we need to dive into the real legal aftermath here, like how this ruling ultimately restored Trump's full executive power over immigration, and why it could mark the beginning of mass deportations across the country like we've never seen before. So the Supreme Court ruling didn't just undo Biden's last-minute sabotage. It actually reset the entire balance of power when it comes to immigration enforcement. Now, for years, lower federal courts, they'd been used like political weapons, blocking deportations, issuing these last-minute injunctions, and undermining ICE at every turn. But now, with this 8-1 ruling, the court made one thing very absolutely clear, guys. The President of the United States, not activist judges, has full authority over immigration policy. So this means Trump can revoke temporary protected status on his own. Trump can order deportations without interference. And the lower courts, well, they've been officially sidelined. And so this really just kind of opens the door for a zero tolerance enforcement wave with no legal handcuffs, no activist roadblocks, no media pressure stopping or capable of stopping me. So, but this isn't just a legal win. This is a philosophical war between two completely different visions of America. So you're going to see exactly how deep this divide goes. So on the one side, you got President Trump restoring law and order, enforcing the rule of law, and putting American citizens first, right? But on the other side, you got like the Democratic Party accused of, trying to replace American voters with imported ones, shielding criminals, and attacking the very law enforcement agents, risking their lives to protect us. So the ruling it's more than legal, it's symbolic. It marks the collapse of the progressive open border fantasy and the return of America First policy, guys. So while the left tried to redefine law enforcement as oppression, this ruling asserts that protecting our borders is not optional, it's a duty. And with President Trump in power, the agenda is very clear. Enforce the law, deport illegal aliens, protect American lives. And this is what, I mean, isn't this what 170 something million, maybe 177 million Americans voted for, right? So what we need to talk about is how this really, it was nothing short of an ICE assault. And the Supreme Court ruling together signaled the collapse of radical obstruction and the rebirth of constitutional authority, guys. You do not want to miss this. So let's step back and let's look at exactly what happened here. So on the one hand, you got a sitting Democratic lawmaker physically assaulting a federal ICE agent, blocking an arrest and calling it oversight, right? Of course, on the other hand, we had President Trump standing firm, taking the fight to the Supreme Court and winning the authority to strip away Biden's reckless protections for hundreds of thousands of illegal migrants. These weren't two separate stories. These were two sides of the same war. It was a war between chaos and control, between lawlessness and order, between America last and America first. Now, LaMonica McIver's assault, that was the symbol of lawlessness, of the left's obsession with obstruction and performance. The Supreme Court ruling, well, that was the snapback of the Constitution, the reminder that we are still a nation of laws. And now the tide is turning. So make no mistake, this is what it looks like when you break the law, you go to jail. And this is what it looks like when Trump is back in power. The rule of law comes roaring back. The radical playbook is collapsing. The activist judges, well, they got overruled. The street theater exposed. And the Democrats, their plan to shield millions from accountability just got crushed, guys. So I think it's very clear at this point, America is finally waking up and Trump is doing exactly what he promised to do. Protect the border, deport the criminals, and put you, the American citizen, first. Now, if this video opened your eyes, drop me a quick comment down below, guys. Let me know what you think about the charges. Let me know what you think about the ruling and what comes next. Also hit the like button, share this video with friends who need to see the truth, and please don't forget to subscribe to the channel, for real updates that mainstream media is just too scared or too paid to cover, or maybe I should say to not cover. Anyway, remember, guys, we cannot back down. We do not look away, and we do not forget who this country belongs to. So also, don't forget to hit up our friends over at Chapter down below. See how much money they can save you on your Medicare. I'd love to hear your story. I'll leave a link for Medicare or for Chapter down below, as well as their phone number if you want to give them a phone call. And we'll see you guys on the next video.